And it is our species' highest joy and passion to be able to have this exciting co-creative interaction with you all this day. How are you doing?
Hello, Ryok. It's a pleasure to be here. How are you?
We are delighted to have the co-creative interaction with you. And we will now begin with our opening monologue describing the upcoming transmission that will be taking place on Friday, the 25th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this transmission is titled Lights of Lemuria. And in this transmission, we shall describe to you different facets of information related to Lemurian culture, Lemurian religion, and how the Lemurians pioneered certain types of vibrational technologies that were used to create different sophisticated types of very naturalistic structures. We will discuss with you all the relationships to the oceans and to the creature kind within the oceans, whom their civilization physically joined. We will talk about the sinking of Lemuria, and in a sense, how that foreshadowed in many ways the sinking of Atlantis. And in the meditational component of the exercise, a part of that transmission, we will pick up, in a sense, where we left off with the transmission avian acceleration, where we will further the skill of astral projection, and we will take a deep dive into the oceans, down into the depths, to commune with ancient Lemuria, which is still alive in a certain way, in a certain sense, through what you would call the Akashic memory. So we will join with them. We will learn together from them. But we remind you all, we are learning as all of you learn, as you evolve yourselves and expand in certain ways, because we are partially human in that sense. We also grow, we also evolve. So we will be learning with you all through this guided journey. We thank you for your attention in this opening monologue. And now we make ourselves available to each of you for your questions. And if you wish, you may now begin.
Besides following our excitement, envisioning collective meditations, and putting ourselves in the public eye, what are other things we can do to bring peace, harmony, and evolution on Earth?
Yes, we thank you for this question. There are many Earth power centers, many Earth chakras that exist. Some of them are local to you in your area. Some of them are perhaps far away, within other countries, on other continents. The idea is you're not limited by space or time, so any power center you can access, even if you are miles away from it. When loving energy is pulsed into the power centers, it can radically shift the quality of your species' collective consciousness. Right now, in a certain sense, there are teams being formed on your planet. Organized teams whom are, in many ways, charging certain power centers repeatedly. Because as you know, you can go to the gym and exercise one time, and there may be a slight change, but if you do that every day for a month, you will have a big change. So, right now, things of that ilk are underway. You can join in with this. Locate the power centers close to you, or the ones on the planet you feel a strong connection with. If you know how to channel something like Reiki, or you practice something like pranic healing, or things of this ilk, you can send those energies into these power centers. This is something the channel teaches, we might add. So if you wish to link up with him for something like this, that is available, but it is also something you can do on your own. You can create your own methods, your own techniques. But that type of ley line work or grid work will make a big, big, big difference. For when individuals are not consciously channeling energy into that ley line network, it essentially means your species' collective unconscious is feeding into it. So when you focus and meditate upon those centers and pulse energies into them, you are bringing consciousness and awareness into those centers. And as you know, your species is going through an awakening. So if you bring consciousness and awareness into some of these centers, you directly facilitate global awakening. So Have fun with that. Be responsible, of course, with this, because it's very powerful. And remember, if you pulse energy into one of these chakras, it ripples throughout your species' collective consciousness. And it's not just limited to your species, your entire planet's collective consciousness. So be mindful with how you treat those centers, because they can make a big ripple. So we thank you for your question.
Is transhumanism the evolution of physical limitations with technology inside human bodies something that can affect our spiritual evolution and growth?
It can, yes. So it's important to be mindful of that. It depends on how it's done, but it can. Yes. Understand, your nervous system utilizes electrical impulses to communicate with all the cells in the body. Electricity is, in many ways, a type of carrier energy. So spiritualized energies from higher dimensions will use the electricity of the nervous system to be able to communicate information to the system, to the cells, to the centers. And if a being is overly augmented to the point where the technology is producing greater levels of electrical output than the organic system, it can, in a sense, create a numbing effect to some of those spiritualized energies. We're not saying this is the case with every electrical technology that is perhaps implanted into a person, because that can be done in a way that does not really interfere with the idea of receiving spiritualized information. But if it is overly done, and in a sense, it overrides the body's own electrical system, it can numb those things out. Because instead of being aware of your own organic connection, you become then more aware of the technology within the system. So that is something you're all beginning to sort out now. Because as you know, you're moving into what has been called the age of Aquarius, which is the blending of science, technology, and spirituality. That's why all these things are coming up now, because you are moving into a new eon where these conversations are in many ways required, so you can move into that new eon with grace, with flow, and with your preference being honored. So all types of things may occur as you move forward. The idea is you're the one driving the ship. It's never a corporation. It's never a person. It's never a thing outside of you, even though media may attempt to convince you otherwise. It's none of those things. It's you. So if you do not prefer those types of realities for yourself, you do not have to accept them. You do not have to choose them. You can say no, thank you. And you can demonstrate your no, thank you in all types of constructive, positive, life-affirming ways. So use your imagination here to create the timeline you prefer. Remember, you're moving through the splitting prism of parallel realities. And as you continue to raise your frequency, you will become aware of all types of things that perhaps in the past you did not even believe were possible. Ultimately, it is through your own vibrational alignment and how you choose to represent that that will determine how you shift and how you move through that splitting prism. So have fun with this. This is not meant to be scary, even though it might look that way to some of you. Remember, it's all just a waking dream. In other words, while the experience of physical reality, in a sense, is real, it is still malleable, just like your dream world is. Therefore, if you know how to work with subtle energy, because everything is made of subtle energy, you can more easily shift through the different parallel realities in a way that you prefer. So we thank you for that question.
Thank you. I'm going to dive into a personal thing here because it's been bothering me. I didn't know I had it until I came face to it. I have a big judgment towards people who have porn addiction, or at least that I judge them having a porn addiction. But I'm stuck and I don't know how to get out of that judgment, negative judgment. So shed light on that.
Yes, we thank you for the question. All right, this is multifaceted. So we're going to talk about it in a few ways. In a certain sense, the phenomenon of electrical digital pornography has actually accelerated your species' attempts to blend with technology. 4, understand that sexual energy is an energy of binding. It's an energy of merging. It's an energy of marrying something. So when individuals overly rely on digital pornography and are sexually stimulating themselves while watching it, energetically, it aligns many of them, not all of them, it all depends on the frequency of the individual, but for many people, they end up aligning with some of those technocentric realities where humans and technologies begin to blend. That's one of the things that actually can lead certain individuals to. Now, once you become conscious of that, you don't have to select it, because for many people, that type of shifting process is unconscious. So we're sharing that with you now so you can become aware of how some of these things, which seem totally disconnected from other things, actually can work together. We're sharing this now because you're all ready for this type of information so you can become more strategic with how you use your energies. Now, as you know, there are all types of oppressive, negative, unethical dynamics that take place within that particular industry that you call corporate or modern pornographic industries. So there can be, again, it depends here, but there can be unconscious resonance with some of that negativity that exists within that industry when individuals, again, become overly reliant upon it. We're not saying this to be anti-porn. We're not saying this to vilify pornography. We're saying this to make you all aware of some of the nuances and subtleties that exist behind the scenes. So, can pornography be used positively? Yes, it can be. Does it require a very specific means of interacting with it? Yes, it does. So if you utilize those forms of media, become much more intentional, if you wish, with how you utilize them. So you can receive positive effects. And so you can, in a sense, let go of perhaps unconsciously feeding energy into realities that are not very ethical, that are not very positive. And it's a delicate situation because the energy being fed into those realities is sexual energy, which amplifies, marries, and binds. So the excess sexual energy fed into that direction goes into that world and feeds that world and can amplify many of the imbalances that you experience within your culture and within your society at large. So we're not saying this as an objective type of thing. What we are saying, though, is that when we observe how that energy moves and shifts and is applied, these are some of the things we notice. And again, these things can be used in positive ways. We're not saying that is impossible. We're just saying it takes a greater level of intentionality for that to occur. We thank you for the question.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Next question. How does conscious creation work considering the idea of desire versus needs? The question or clarification would be, how does it work and what is, and how do we integrate with our higher selves?
All right. We'll talk about it like this. Desire and need can both be expressed in terms of positive and negative. You can have a negative desire. You can have the sense of a negative need. You can have a positive desire. You can have the sense of a positive need. We'll talk about it like this. A need truly, in its most fundamental sense, represents the idea of requiring a certain something for your physical survival, for baseline physical survival and baseline health in terms of physical, mental, and emotional wellness. So needs in that way have to do with survival-based subjects and also baseline health-related subjects. Desires, on the other hand, while they can absolutely correspond with needs, have to do with things that are perhaps less fundamental to the survival and the thriving of the human system. So a desire might have to do with the idea of traveling somewhere new. It might have to do with the idea of expanding a certain relationship into a new direction. It might have to do with learning something you're excited to learn. So we would describe it like this. Needs are more foundational to survival and baseline health. Desires have to do more with expanding into the reality, exploring the reality in a way that you prefer. Now, as you know, if an individual is in a great state of fear or lack, they might express negative need, which means they create for themselves resistances to receiving the things that would satisfy the needs because of energies that have to do with unworthiness or lack or poverty. And that would be an example of perhaps a negative need. Positive needs have to do with the attitude of the individual, recognizing that they are abundant, they are connected, and if they open their hearts, if they open their minds, if they reach out to the community, because you are all a part of a great network, like a constellation, resources will come. Especially as you move forward, resources will come. So that is how we would describe negative need versus positive need. In terms of desire, negative desire, positive desire. Positive desire has to do with activities of exploration that are life affirming, that are, in a sense, freedom, sovereignty affirming, that are, in a sense, love affirming, bliss affirming. And negative desire has to do with explorations and activities that oftentimes are based in judgment, that are oftentimes based in lack, and these types of things. So needs and desires can be explored positively. They can also be explored negatively. It all depends on the state of consciousness of the individual whom is exploring those things.
Nice. Next question. Can we increase our height by a few inches overnight?
The short answer is yes. The long answer is that may not be the ideal way for you to do it, though. That has to do with the idea of the whole system having to shift, your whole consciousness having to shift in a way that perhaps would be quite accelerated. So in general, gradual shifting for those types of physical things is ideal, specifically because it gives the whole system an opportunity to play catch up in a gradual way, instead of making a complete change overnight, physically speaking, and then the system has to catch up in a sense all at once. So while that can be done, and there are methods for it, those are not necessarily methods that we teach, specifically because it can be shocking to the system. Rather, gradual methods, gradual means are much more gentle for the system and will produce less side effects. But yes, that is possible.
What is the symbolism that you understand about rabbits, squirrels, and foxes?
In general, they are all reflections of what you would call nature spirits. Now, what we mean by this is these animals, in a sense, represent what you would call totem animals. And they, due to certain soul agreements and oversoul agreements made with the non-physical intelligences that are related to the nature of your planet, will oftentimes act as ambassadors for these types of multidimensional, non-physical forms of Earth consciousness. And you can see this when you simply observe the behavior of the animals. They're all, in a sense, tricksters. And we'll explain this. The rabbit, as you know, will go into a rabbit hole. The rabbit hole, physically, yes, perhaps represents a space or a type of den, but multidimensionally, it represents a portal. So you can actually astral project into a rabbit hole, following the rabbit down into Wonderland, let's just say. We'll call it that, just to be a little humorous with it. With foxes, there is also a component of what you would call trickster energy. And if you have ever heard a fox scream, many of you know it does not sound like an animal, it sounds like a human being. This is also referencing the idea that there is much more to the fox than meets the eye. The squirrel, as you know, is able to climb low on the ground, gathering resources. It's able to ascend up an entire tree, which is a metaphor for your nervous system. and can jump from tree to tree to tree, gathering resources, exploring different worlds, exploring different nervous systems, exploring different beings. And as you know, they also go into trees. And that also represents, whenever you see an opening to a tree, another type of portal that can lead you into that overlay reality where the nature spirits and elementals dwell. So these are all different ways you can understand these three animals and how they relate to, in a sense, the other side, how they relate to the other sides of the veil. Whenever you see animals like this, where either the trickster archetype is present, or there is a noted behavior of the animal not being limited, being able to go anywhere, or you notice that the animal digs and travels into something, these are all invitations. They are all signs to let you know these animals are connected to other realms and other worlds. Because of that connection, nature, spirits, and elementals will oftentimes communicate through them, sometimes even directly shape-shifting into them to interact with you in a more physical way. We're not saying every rabbit or every squirrel or every fox is a shape-shifting elemental, but some of them are. So if you notice them behaving strangely, it may be an invitation to perhaps follow them. And if you find you cannot physically follow them, you can astrally follow them. And that will reveal much more to you than the physical senses can. So we thank you for your question.
What are the properties of silver?
In general, silver has a lunar connection. It corresponds with your moon. It is, in a sense, protective in that it amplifies the frequencies of safety. Safety is a vibrational frequency that you emanate that then creates the experience of being in a safe reality. So you could say, in a certain way, safety and the frequencies of safety offer a type of protective bubble or vortex. Danger has its own frequency. And when individuals feel that they are not safe or they are not protected, they end up resonating with the frequencies of danger and then create dangerous experiences. So both of those things are vibrational choices. Silver can assist you in experiencing that phenomenon of feeling safe. So that's one dimension of it. It also amplifies what you call intuition, your psychic sensing. So it can open up the third eye in a certain way. It can open up the other energy centers connected with your psychic abilities. And in a sense, the silver energy, a white silver specifically, can have a sort of sterilizing effect. It can energetically clean the system. These are some of the major properties of silver.
What is the difference between tuning your frequency to someone's past experience and experiencing it energetically and actually experiencing it physically?
Well, the idea is that in order to really experience it in a physical way, you need to make a systemic vibrational shift. So we'll explain it like this. With your mind, with your emotions, with your energy, you can begin to tune in, you could say astrally, to a certain person's past, allowing for you to receive information, allowing for you to receive clarity. Now, in order to physically experience it, the physical body must be tuned as well. And that does not necessarily mean you're going to time travel into their past physically. But what it means is when you tune into their past, you will physically feel it. You will physically feel like you're there while you're in the meditative state. And that might create the experience over time of actually time traveling to that location. However, that's not necessarily something that is as accessible as you might think. There are reasons those things are not as accessible as perhaps many of you desire. Because if you were to physically time travel to the past, then you have to figure out how to get back. So there's a reason those things don't happen for many of you instantly. The idea being is that skill can gradually be developed through including the physical level in that energetic tuning process. And that will translate as you physically feeling the nature of their past in different ways. And at a certain point, that may become so powerful that, yes, a type of reality shifting could occur where you could physically experience their past in a more immersive way. But in general, that's not really needed. That's not really relevant for many of you, and could actually, in a sense, create a bunch of work for you to have to resolve that perhaps would not be desirable or preferable. So there's a reason that does not happen right away. But that's what's required. It simply has to do with making sure every level of your body is tuned to the person's past. But we remind you, that's not always needed, because the more you tune yourself to the frequency of something, the more like it you become. That's why we always encourage you to resonate with source, to resonate with divinity, to resonate with your original spirit, so you can become, in a sense, more like that. But that doesn't mean you can't use your psychic abilities to tune into other things. That's fine. We're just reminding you, the more you do that in a particular way, the more like that you will become. And that's why you experience, in many ways, the channel before you becoming more like us. And in a sense, we are becoming more like him. That's the blending, because we are merging energy fields essentially 3 times a day, every day. So that's one of the reasons why you're experiencing the blended persona that I am evolving in the way that I do, because the channel and I, in a sense, merge and become even more like each other, bringing each other up together as a team.
Playing around with the idea of magic, could you give us a spell-like permission slip for manifesting what we desire?
What we will say is this: learn thoroughly. The system you call magic, magic with a K, is a science, a complete science that was given to your world all at once as a complete transmission by certain extra dimensionals that are connected to the stellar realms, the star realms. So we're not going to give any magical technique in isolation here. However, what we will say is this: if you know how to channel energy, then you can very easily perform magical workings. The simplest thing we'll share, and again, we're not going to be very specific here, because in order for us to be specific, a certain level of training is required so the information can be properly absorbed by the person whom is asking this question. But in relationship to bare bones basics, you can form between your hands an energy ball, a chi ball, as it is called. Using the color white, make the chi ball. Inhaling down from the heart center, down the arms to the hands, and exhaling, making the chi ball. Do this for about 10 breaths. Every time you exhale into the chi ball, picture the reality you desire. Keep it simple. Picture the reality you desire and see yourself in that reality as being very happy. Continue to do this for about 10 breaths. After 10 breaths, speak your will. Speak your desire into the chi ball. Be very thorough here, because that energy will create through the path of least resistance. So list every quality you prefer in relationship to that manifestation. Try not to put too many parameters on it. Try not to put into it too many different programs that will, in a sense, disperse the energy. Keep the intention very unified, but put parameters in there that lock into the chi ball the qualities you prefer. And also, it is advisable to put parameters into the chi ball that prohibit certain qualities from being a part of the manifestation. So you can speak into the chi ball what you prefer, and you can also speak into the chi ball what will be absent in that manifestation, what will not occur. You can put both in, and that will create a laser focus for that chi ball to then serve you in a much more preferential way. Once you have spoken your will in, you can then send the chi ball into different directions. If you send the chi ball down, it will, in a sense, manifest on more of an earth level. If you send the chi ball forward, It will manifest on more of a human level. If you send the chi ball up, it will manifest on more of a cosmic level. Whenever it manifests on a cosmic level, the manifestational effect will trickle down. And it will trickle down through the different densities and dimensions, allowing for a very even manifestation, a smooth manifestation to take place. It may take a little more time, but not always. Depends on the nature of the manifestation. When the energy ball is set into the earth, because you are on earth, it will physicalize much more quickly. However, it may not be as balanced in that way, but it will be a very solid manifestation. And should you send the energy ball forward into what you call the human realm, level with your mid-eyebrow and third eye, the manifestation effect will have to do with primarily synchronicities and people working together as a team, consciously or unconsciously, in a way that assists the manifestation in reaching you. So there's 3 different directions you can use for that chi ball sending part of the exercise. But that's a general magical technique that you can use. And if you wish to become more sophisticated, we would encourage that you train in what is known as high magic or ceremonial magic. You'll learn a great deal and you can become very sophisticated in how you manifest.
Wow, awesome. Why do I feel that a lot of people, including me, have bought into the negative idea that the world after the pandemic is more depressive and worse than it was before? Is this part of the journey?
Yes, it's part of the journey. Yes. And we're not going to invalidate what you're sensing. There are many people on the versions of Earth that you're experiencing that are very depressed, that feel very tired, that feel very unhappy. Because individuals, in a sense, have gone through a very challenging time for a couple of years now. Now, not all of you have chosen to be as negative in your mindsets about this. So as you know, there are many communities that are flourishing, that are thriving, that are keeping the vibration high. But that's not the case everywhere on your planet. So you may absolutely be accurate in what you're detecting, that people around you are sad. So that doesn't mean you have to be sad with them. You can empathize with them, you can be compassionate to them, but you don't have to also be sad yourself. Remember what we said earlier in this transmission, there are earth chakras all around you. There are certain earth chakras that are major power centers for your community. Bless those power centers and you'll bless all of those people. Do it one time, you'll get a slight effect. Do it every day for a month and buckle up because everything in your community will change.
Wow. Next question, how long after open contact will it be an everyday experience for the majority of population of Earth to be interacting with ETs on a daily or a monthly basis?
It depends on the vibrational state of the humans in question. Even when open contact occurs, still like attracts like. That doesn't go away. So some groups may not resonate very strongly with ETs despite their presence. There may not be a great deal of contact for those groups. Other groups may be very resonant with ETs. There may be much more contact there. So it's still in your hands.
In the human gray hybridization agenda, do all the created beings have free will? Would individual beings have the chance to split off from the overall agenda if they so desire?
Yes, and they have. Yes, they have free will. And yes, some beings split off from the agenda, not because of a fear-based reason, but simply because they have other projects in mind. They've come to do other things. And that's a part of the program. The program factors that in. It always leaves room for the agendas of individuals who are a part of the program. So that way, the program can grow. And so those individuals and groups of individuals can grow as they explore.
Nice. Can you speak about totalitarianism? I see it on the rise everywhere, and I want to hear how it can be overcome.
We're going to repeat what we said before. And we're just saying it with this tone, so it's very clear. Use the earth chakras. Bless them. Make sure you are in a very loving state when you do it. Because if you attempt to charge up an earth chakra while you're full of fear, the fear will go into the earth chakra. So thoroughly cleanse yourself energetically, really hype yourself up with love and laughter and joy, all of your favorite things. And when you feel like you're at the peak of bliss, that is the moment to work. Remember, if everything is made of energy and you know how to work with energy, there is nothing you cannot achieve. No matter how big the challenges around you look. If you limit yourself to the mind, if you limit yourself to the ego, if you limit yourself to the physicality, there's not a heck of a lot you can really do. If you learn how to work with energy, you can do anything. It's all about embodying the qualities of that specific anything you wish to achieve fully and projecting those qualities on all levels. And that will create a systemic shift.
Every time I want to manifest money, I'm manifesting in debt. Any solution for financial abundance, please?
Detoxify yourself of the frequencies of poverty and debt, because those things actually have an energetic signature. If you have merged your consciousness with concepts of poverty, lack, and debt, that means when you call forth money, those qualities will be entangled with it. So learn how to detoxify yourself of those things. On this YouTube channel, there is a video titled Ryok Oversoul Observation Letting Go. Do that exercise and let go of the feelings of debt. Let go of the feelings of poverty. Let go of the feelings of lack. And that portion of letting go is done on the exhale of the exercise. On the inhalated portion, pull into you the feelings of prosperity, abundance, and love. So charge yourself with those things. You can use the color gold or yellow that corresponds with money, abundance, prosperity, wealth. Inhale, smile, bringing in yellow. Exhale through the feet, a black smoke, letting go of poverty, letting go of lack, letting go of debt. And repeat the exercise. Inhale the gold, exhale the gray or black smoke down, deep into the earth. And you will be purging yourself of that negative energy, and you will be charging yourself with the energies of the reality that you prefer. It may not be a one and done. Practice this thoroughly until you feel you are free energetically of debt. And that freedom may last for perhaps a month. And then you may feel it comes back a little bit. And if it does, just repeat the exercise. At a certain point, it will no longer come back when you have fully made the shift into prosperity, abundance, and wealth.
Thank you so much, Ryok. And it's 1 p.m. your time.
All right. We thank you all so much for this exciting co-creative transmission together this day. As always, our species, unconditional love and appreciation to you all. And we will speak to you again soon. And we look forward to our interactions together on Friday, the 25th, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Lights of Lemuria.